questions, questions orales. The honourable member for York Durham.
Argentina, Australia, Brazil, Canada, China, Germany, France, India, Indonesia, Italy, Japan, Korea, Russia, Mexico, South Africa, Saudi Arabia, Turkey, the EU, the US, and the UK. Mr. Speaker, as Big Bird would say, one of these things is not like the other. One of these things just doesn't belong. So can the Prime Minister tell us which one of these G20 economies is not like the other? I'll give him a hint. Only one is in a recession. Which one is it?
The honourable government House Leader.
Well, Mr. Speaker, as we know, the world has gone through some incredible headwinds, and Canada has been no exception and perhaps been singled out as we are the neighbour of a country who has launched an unprovoked and unjustified trade war. That is, Mr. Speaker, why we are putting in place measures that will grow our economy. But I do want to ask this member, which of the countries that he listed would he rather live in? Because I know there's 173 of us who would rather live and rather face the economic prospects of this country, Canada. Vive le Canada, Monsieur le Président.
The honourable member for York Durham.
Easy answer, Mr. Speaker. A Canada led by a strong Conservative government. But under this Liberal government, poor economic management leads to more bad news. The only G20 country in a recession. And today, the Parliamentary Budget Watchdog says that the Prime Minister has a 1% chance, 1% of keeping his promise of a declining debt-to-GDP ratio. Growth is downcast for 2026 and 2027. So is this a recession, or is this all just technical?
The Honourable Minister of Finance.
Mr. Speaker, Germany, Italy, Mexico, France.
Un instant.
Just a moment, please. Just a moment, please. Just a moment. Just a moment. I cannot hear. There's too much noise. It's a bit like yesterday and the day before yesterday. And I know that, the summer holidays are coming soon, but please, let's calm down a little bit. We'll try again. The Honourable Minister of Finance.
Mr. Speaker, it's going to be a real pleasure to start again. Let's take the list, Mr. Speaker. Germany, Italy, Mexico, France, Japan, United Kingdom, and Canada, Mr. Speaker. Canada is going to have the second fastest growth in the G7, Mr. Speaker. This is the Canada we're building. This is the Canada that this team is building. This is the Canada that this Prime Minister is building. This is the... And we're going to build it with them.
The honourable member for Oshawa.
Mr. Speaker, under this Liberal Prime Minister, Canada is the only G20 country in a recession. Yet for a week now, the Prime Minister has outright refused to address the seriousness of the situation, ignoring the fact that Canadians are worried about their jobs, their savings, and whether they can afford to make ends meet. The Prime Minister has spent more time avoiding the word recession than he has explaining the plan to end one. Will the Prime Minister stop dodging? Stop dodging the question and tell Canadians, are we in a recession or just a technical recession?
The Honourable Secretary of State for Financial Institutions.
Mr. Speaker, China, Japan, Australia, India, our Prime Minister has just signed billions of dollars of trade deals with those countries, creating thousands of jobs in this country. Mr. Speaker, Canadians elected a leader with world-class business and economic credentials. They have no time and will take no advice from a leader who has never worked one day outside of this House. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Oshawa.
Mr. Speaker, everyone knows that the first step to fixing a problem is admitting that there is one.
That's right.
Liberals think the word recession is like the word Beetlejuice. If you don't say it, then it doesn't exist. But ignoring reality does not change reality. This Liberal government has spent months telling Canadians they had the fastest growing economy in the G7. The reality is we are the only country in the G20 in a recession. Will the government finally answer? Canada, are we in a recession or is it just a technical one?
Good job.
The Honourable Minister of National Defence.
Mr. Speaker, what we're listening for is something rational, something thoughtful, something coherent, something comprehensive, maybe even a plan, Mr. Speaker. How about a plan that's a fiscal plan? How about an economic plan? What about an industrial plan? What about a defense and security plan? How about supports and social services for Canadians? Mr. Speaker, all we hear is driving this country down. It's absolutely ridiculous.
The Honourable Member for Montmorency-Charlevoix. With this new Liberal Prime Minister, Canada is the only G20 country facing a recession. 3 quarters out of 4 where economic growth has gone down. Investors are fleeing the country. Government borrowing is $7 billion above target. Today, the Parliamentary Budget Officer said that the Liberal government has only a 1% chance of meeting its budget commitments. So my question is very simple. Does the Prime Minister recognize, yes or no, that economic management of the country, his economic management, is a failure? The Honourable Minister of Industry. Well, clearly, my colleague wasn't there with us last Friday when we were in Saguenay-Lac-Saint-Jean, not too far from his riding in the aluminum sector. It's a sector that's a victim of a terrible tariff war. It's hit employees hard across Saguenay-Lac-Saint-Jean. And you know what? We were able to open something amazing in the aluminum sector, a new initiative with the Premier of Quebec. And you know what we did? We invested $100 million more in new technology, which is going to make Quebec's aluminum the greenest aluminum in the world. The Honourable Member for Montmorency-Charlevoix. Well, the reality is, and it comes what's happening is from Mathis, a young Quebecer who wrote to me this week. He said that many people in my generation are losing hope of one day owning a home. The cost of homes, the cost of rent is so high that I feel like I'm running after something that I'll never be able to attain. We don't want to be rich. We just want to be able to get by after working hard without feeling constantly stressed about our finances. So, Mr. Speaker, we're in a recession. The Liberals' economic plan isn't working. When are they going to give some hope to young people and stop governing for bankers? When will they govern for the people? The Honourable Minister of Government Transformation. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, and I have a lot of empathy for Canadians like Mathis, and it's for Canadians like him, Mr. Speaker, that we get up every day and that we're fighting with programs that work. I don't have their names, Mr. Speaker, but there are 13,500 families who are getting funds from the Canada Child Benefit in his riding, and he's voted against that. You know, what is he going to say to the 23,500 people in his riding who benefit from the Canada Dental Plan? I don't have their names, Mr. Speaker, but he voted against those 23,500 people. You know, he should support measures that are really helping people in his riding. The Honourable Member for Saint-Jean. Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister is once again abandoning culture. After scrapping the digital services tax last summer without getting anything in return, yesterday he abandoned the plan to increase royalties for Quebec cultural production from internet streamers. His first instinct when dealing with Donald Trump is to hand out billions of dollars to the web giants and then pass the bill on to taxpayers. It didn't even take 24 hours of negotiations in Washington for the Prime Minister to accept that sacrifice. Why is he in such a hurry to capitulate when it comes to the future of Quebec's culture? The Honourable Minister of Canadian Identity and Culture. Mr. Speaker, at least the Conservatives have the honesty to say that they don't care about culture, but now the Bloc Québécois is standing up, constantly voting against culture, voting against $750 million in the last budget for Téléfilm, the National Film Board, Radio-Canada, and now even more hypocrisy. $600 million for the cultural sector is what we're offering. It's great. It's going to help our producers. Thank you. The Honourable Member for Saint-Jean. Mr. Speaker, the $600 million that the minister's talking about, that's being paid for by taxpayers. He's replacing billions of dollars in contributions from Netflix and other platforms with $600 million that's coming out of taxpayers' pockets. And that, whether or not they're subscribers of those services, everyone's going to pay. Other countries around the world demand substantial royalties from streaming platforms, and they haven't seen major increases in bills to their users. Quebec has the courage to stand up to web giants. When will the federal government have the same courage? The Honourable Minister. Mr. Speaker, there's one chance, for the Bloc Québécois leader to listen to what people are saying. The leader of ADISC said that this is great support, and we will expect that the web giants will pay their fair share. The Honourable Member for Drummond. Well, the entire cultural sector is calling for a long-term solution that involves contributions from streaming platforms like Netflix or Amazon Prime. In the meantime, well, Ottawa is exempting them yet again and turning to taxpayers to make up the difference, $600 million. Mr. Speaker, we've been talking about this for 25 years. There's no solution for the future of culture in Quebec without a fair share from the web giants. This decision is clearly a capitulation once again to digital billionaires at the expense of Quebec's culture. What's it going to take for the Minister of Culture to defend culture? The Honourable Minister of Government Transformation. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Bloc Québécois is a master in trying to tell us what to do, but they don't know what to do. When we negotiate on a budget, when we seek their support, no demands from the Bloc Québécois when it comes to culture. When it's time to vote for the budget with $750 million for culture, the Bloc's voted against it. Now we're announcing $600 million, which the cultural sector in Quebec has lauded. We're supporting our cultural sovereignty. Well, the Bloc, once again, is against it.
The only leader in the entire G20 to force their country into recession is this Liberal Prime Minister. He forced the same 2.2 million Canadians to pay for his lavish $200,000 worth of meals on just 3 flights. In fact, he spent more on salmon on those 3 flights than what an average family will spend on groceries for the entire year. He's forcing Canadians to sacrifice so he can stuff his face with creme brulee. So will he stand up on his 2 feet and tell us, is this a technical recession or a full-blown Liberal one?
The Honourable Government House Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I'm happy because we had a nice exchange this morning at the Finance Committee on this very issue. Every time the Prime Minister travels somewhere, he comes back and tells his ministers about the investments and the economic opportunities that are coming back to this country. It keeps us very busy, thank you very much. For my part, I hope he travels more because we'll be building more infrastructure, we'll be building more ports, we'll be building more railways, we'll be building more bridges, we'll be building this country strong, and we'll be building it well, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Calgary East.
Every time the Prime Minister leaves, he stuffs his face with $200,000 worth of lavish meals on the taxpayer dime. A lot of fake signings of MOUs, a lot of fake handshakes, a lot of nothing, and $0 in trade deals. That's why Canada has been thrown into a full-blown Liberal recession. This Liberal government has done nothing for the average Canadian. That's why 2.2 million Canadians are facing food insecurity in this country, and 120,000 have lost their jobs in the first 3 months of this year. So will he tell us what's the plan to get out of this full-blown Liberal recession?
The Honourable Minister of Finance.
Mr. Speaker, I'm sure Canadians watching today are fed up of the Conservative talking down the Canadian economy, Mr. Speaker.
That's so true.
Canada is a great country, Mr. Speaker. We have the most educated workforce, Mr. Speaker. We build planes, we build cars, we build ships. We have critical minerals, Mr. Speaker, that the world needs. We have an abundance of energy. We are the only G7 country with a free trade with all the other G7 nations, Mr. Speaker. We're going to build Canada strong. We're going to build it together. We're going to have the second fastest growing economy in the G7. That's Canada, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Barrie South Innisfil.
The only thing they build is debt and deficit, and a Liberal Prime Minister who's put Canada as the only G20 country in a recession. And while Canadians are told to make sacrifice, you know who's not making sacrifices? The Prime Minister and his well-connected Liberal insiders. Recently released documents show $200,000 spent on food for just 3 flights, including $18,000 for salmon for just 1 flight alone. That's more than the average family will spend in groceries in 2026. As seniors line up at food banks and families pay the price, will the Prime Minister finally tell us whether we're actually in a technical recession or a recession?
Hear, hear. The Honourable Government House Leader.
Mr. Speaker, we have some news here. When you look up leader expenditures for 2024, I will be very interested to look at 2025, because we all know what happened there. We had a summer sojourn at Stornoway that was a little iffy, but in 2024, Mr. Leader of the Opposition spent $8.8 million in the Leader of the Opposition's office. Doesn't have to make one single decision, Mr. Speaker, while the Liberal leader spent $4.1 million. That's double. That's bad. They have some answering to do.
The Honourable Member for Barrie South Innisfil.
Well, next week, we'll do the Prime Minister's office, Mr. Speaker.
Just a second. We'll start from the top.
How much was tax dollars?
The honourable member for Barrie South Innisfil from the beginning, please.
Yeah, we'll do the whole PCO next week for you, Mr. Speaker, and you'll get a kick out of that. Canada's the only G20 country that's in a recession, and while Canadians, and it may be a laughing matter to them, but while Canadians are missing mortgage payments, bankruptcies are up, and nearly 60% have little or no money left over at the end of the month. The Liberal Prime Minister spent money in Rome, $4,213 on creme brulee, $3,800 on chocolate in Rome, and $593 on luxury Normandy buttercups, whatever that is. Canadians deserve an honest answer. Are we in a recession or a technical recession? Tell us the truth.
The Honourable Secretary of State for Financial Institutions.
Mr. Speaker, $8.8 million? Whoa! The Leader of the Opposition? He's been in this House for 22 years. He's never had a job outside of this House, and he spent $8.8 million? Mr. Speaker, on this side of the House, we're serious about the economy. We're serious about building an economy for all Canadians. Abroad, we're signing trade deals. At home, we're cutting taxes. We're investing in infrastructure. We're investing in housing, in aerospace, in defense. You name it, Mr. Speaker. We're going to build Canada strong. They can continue with the rhetoric. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Newmarket Aurora.
Canada is the only G20 country to fall into a recession. Canadians are struggling with food affordability, and 1 in 4 are now food insecure. Yet this Prime Minister racks up $200,000 in airplane catering in 3 trips. He spent $70,000 alone in salmon, more than most families spend on food in an entire year. So if the Prime Minister cannot control his own reckless spending, how can Canadians trust him to get us out of this recession, or is it technically not his problem?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Housing and Infrastructure.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. At this moment, our government is making important investments in communities throughout Ontario. And these investments are going to create jobs for all Canadians. We know that it's time to invest in Ontario. That's why we're investing in the Black Creek Sanitary Trunk Store, the Kitchener Central Transit Hub, the Downtown Connection Hub in the City of Barrie, the Scarborough Subway, the Hamilton LRT, and the Darlington Nuclear Power Plant. All of these are in Ontario, where that member is from. We care about Ontario, and it's time to invest.
You're here. Honourable Member from Newmarket Aurora.
$94,000 on a single flight, Mr. Speaker. Only a member of the Liberal insider class cannot see a problem with that. It is more than 5 families spend in an entire year in groceries. Canada is the only G20 country in a recession, and Canadians are struggling. But if you're in the Prime Minister's entourage, well, you can expect $200,000 in catering. Federal executives, well, they get tens of millions of dollars in bonuses despite missing performance targets. So if the Prime Minister thinks the sacrifice is necessary, why is he and everyone in his inner circle exempt from it, especially in a recession?
Hear, hear. The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We are focused on doing the hard work of building our country and building our economy. 2 weeks ago, our government announced $350 million in housing and infrastructure investments in the Yukon to deliver stronger communities in the north. 3 weeks ago, we announced $61 million in funding for high-speed internet projects in northern Manitoba. And 4 weeks ago, we celebrated station construction being underway at all 8 stations along the Surrey-Langley SkyTrain extension. We're doing the hard work from coast to coast to coast to build Canada up. All they want to do is tear it down.
The honourable member for Bow River.
Mr. Speaker, under this Liberal Prime Minister, Canada is the only country, G20 country, in a recession. Canadians are being told to tighten their belts while the Prime Minister can't stop spending. On a single trip, taxpayers were billed more than $17,000 for salmon, more than many Canadian families spend on food for an entire year. Meanwhile, the Environment Minister said it was reasonable to spend $500,000 on luxury accommodations in Brazil on a junket. With all the extravagant spending, will the Prime Minister stop dodging, tell Canadians the truth? Are we in a recession or merely a technical recession? Here, here.
The Honourable Secretary of State for Labour.
Conservative Party leader needs to explain the $8.8 million of unaccounted for, unexplained expenses, Mr. Speaker. And the Conservatives know that we are in the middle of a trade war. But we have a plan, Mr. Speaker. We're building, Mr. Speaker. Let's use some examples. Canada's first European LNG agreement, more than $30 billion in investment secured, Mr. Speaker. The Nouveau Mine, graphite mine project, thousands of jobs in the skilled trades, Mr. Speaker. The Darlington Nuclear Project in Ontario, thousands of jobs in the skilled trades, Mr. Speaker. We're building this country. We're fighting for Canadians. I hope the Conservatives join us.
The honourable member for Repentigny. Mr. Speaker, we were wondering why the Liberals didn't have the courage to criticize the Prime Minister's climate record. Well, it's explained in the Toronto Star. According to Liberal MPs, the Prime Minister literally yells at MPs who tell him things that he doesn't want to hear. They don't have the right to question him. They don't have the right to write to him either. Well, if Liberal MPs are abandoning the climate fight, is it because they're afraid of the Prime Minister? The Honourable Secretary of State for Nature. Mr. Speaker, I am very, very surprised to hear that question from my honourable colleague, and I will share my experience as Secretary of State for Nature. I've never been yelled at. I've never had to, tear off my shirt. We've worked well. We've had great collaborative work. Many colleagues here have worked with me. And, I'm in a fairly new role. We're able to work together. We're able to debate. We're able to move forward. And we are doing that to protect nature, to develop Canada, and have a united Canada. The honourable member for Repentigny. Now, Mr. Speaker, as wildfire season begins, 300 mayors today are calling out the Prime Minister on his climate record and his shift towards the oil sector. Representatives of half of Canada's population are telling the Prime Minister that his claim to be building the country means that, he shouldn't be burning it down. We already knew that the Prime Minister doesn't want anything to do with environmental groups or Parliament. We now know that he's yelling at his own MPs. Will he at least listen to the mayors, or is he going to yell at them too? The Honourable Minister of the Environment. As a team, we work together, and we are working hard to fight climate change, and we see the results. Already, with the rebates for electric vehicles, we've seen EV sales more than double. We're investing now in public transit in Quebec. We have investments in aluminum in Quebec to make it even greener and to create jobs. We have Alto, where we're investing in faster, greener transport options, and they're against it. We're doing the hard work, and we're doing it together. The honourable member from Mégantic-L'Érable-Lobinière. Mr. Speaker, under this Liberal Prime Minister, Canada is the only G20 country that's fallen into a recession. While families are counting every dollar at the grocery store, the Liberal Prime Minister is travelling in luxury at taxpayers' expense. $4,000 for creme brulee, $3,000, almost $4,000 for chocolate mousse, luxury Normandy buttercups, for thousands and thousands of dollars. Mr. Speaker, Canadians are cutting their own budgets. The Liberal Prime Minister is paying for luxuries. I'll ask him a very simple. The recession that he created himself, is it a technical recession or a liberal recession? The Honourable Secretary of State to the Minister of Housing and Infrastructure. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, you know what that member's not talking about? It's that tomorrow 12 million Canadians will get the first payment under the Canada Groceries and Benefits Essentials benefit. And that's thousands of people in his riding are going to see that. This is a concrete action that the government is taking to make life more affordable. It's the kind of program that the Conservatives are talking down day after day here. They will take no lessons from them. They don't care about the cost of living. The Honourable Member for Mégantic-l'Érable-Lobinière. Mr. Speaker, we at least understand the reality that Canadians are facing, the reality that Canadian families are facing, the reality of, mothers who can't pay for groceries at the end of the month. They can't even speak the word recession, Mr. Speaker. They're not able to say that Canada is the only G20 country that right now is in a recession. It doesn't seem to be hurting them, but you know what? Canadian families are really hurting, Mr. Speaker. And, through you, I'm speaking to the government. Mr. Speaker, Liberal buddies are, doing really well. $11 million in bonuses at the Royal Canadian Mint. The country's in a recession. Come on. The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary. While they're trying to fabricate a crisis, we're making the necessary investments to strengthen our communities. Over $2.5 billion announced this week for infrastructure across Quebec. Over $1 billion with Quebec over 3 years to modernize our hospitals and our emergency rooms. In rural communities, over $6 billion for public transit across the province, Mr. Speaker. Those are the concrete results that we are showing for Quebecers and Canadians. The Honourable Member for Portneuf-Jacques-Cartier. Mr. Speaker, a technical recession is a concept that's created by economists. They've defined the criteria. Canada is the only country in the G7, in the G20 that's in a recession. And we're not making this up. It's a fact. Instead of finding solutions, the Liberals are working themselves to the bone, coming up with excuses. When you can't acknowledge a problem, you can't find solutions. Can the Prime Minister be honest and tell Canadians that Canada is in a recession? The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister. Canadians want us to build a stronger, more independent, more resilient economy in partnership with the provinces and territories and Indigenous peoples. The Conservatives are ignoring everything that's happening around the world. They're denigrating Canada, but we're going to continue to build Canada strong. And you know what? Projects like New World Graphite, the port in Contrecoeur, the Alto high-speed train, and many others, the Conservatives have voted against all the measures that we put in place to be able to do those projects.
The Honourable Member for Portneuf-Jacques-Cartier. Mr. Speaker, sure, the Liberals seem to be experts at diversionary tactics. We are in a recession. Only the Liberals are unwilling to admit it. Instead, they make excuses. Well, the President of the United States is their excuse. The supposed savior of the Canadian economy, our Prime Minister, should find some solutions because his plan isn't working. Can this Prime Minister accept the truth and admit that our country is in a recession? The Honourable Minister. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. 150 aircraft at Airbus, that's not diversionary. Bombardier, GlobalEye contract, that isn't either. Nouveau Monde Graphite, the largest G7 graphite mine, neither is that. How about high-speed rail, Mr. Speaker? Again, another example. Billions of dollars in the Quebec Tramway, $10 billion in economic benefits for the region of Quebec. That is also a measure of action. These are results, very tangible. The Honourable Member for Bellechasse-les-Échemins-Lévis. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Under this Prime Minister, Canada is the only G20 country in a recession. It's not surprising. We have 3 out of 4 quarters of negative growth. There's been a record drop in productivity, and the budgetary watchdog confirms a 99% probability that the government will not reach its fiscal anchors, Mr. Speaker. Despite multiple warnings from the banks, this government continues to run up the debt by borrowing $72 billion this year. Will the Prime Minister finally stop denying the obvious and admit to Canadians that our economy is in recession? Government House Leader. In the same vein, Mr. Speaker, my colleague for Quebec was quite humble. There was no mention of the Davie shipyard, which is also part of the shipbuilding strategy, not talking about the first port of arrival, the Port of Quebec. How about the developments like the high-speed rail in the Quebec City area? Quebec and as a province and the city of Quebec will be benefiting a great deal from this growth strategy to build a strong Canada, build jobs, build opportunities. Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Humber River Black Creek.
Mr. Speaker, millions of Canadians live with vision and eye health problems. During the last Parliament, I was pleased that my private member's bill, the National Strategy for Eye Care Act, passed both the House and the Senate unanimously. Thanks to this bill, we're putting a real focus on preventing and treating eye disease and ensuring better outcomes for all Canadians. Can the Minister of Health please tell this House how our government is leading a coordinated response to vision loss care?
L'honorable ministre de
The Honourable Minister of Health.
I want to thank the member from Humber River Black Creek for her leadership on this issue. Thanks to her bill, we've tabled Canada's first ever national eye care strategy. We brought together all levels of government, Indigenous partners, health professionals, and people with lived experience to create a strategy that reflects the needs of all Canadians. The member was critical to making this happen, and I hope this strategy helps improve access to eye care for the millions of Canadians.
The honourable member for Okanagan Lake West South Kelowna.
Mr. Speaker, Canada is the only G20 country that is in a recession. Shirley is a senior from my riding who lives alone in Summerland. She tells me that she doesn't drink, doesn't smoke, doesn't gamble. Her only luxury is a swim pass to the local public pool. Every time I speak to her, her tone is increasingly dire. Shirley and her friends do not see anything getting better and believe that the Liberals have forgotten seniors. Another recycled rebate is not going to fix it, Mr. Speaker. I want the minister to tell Shirley, is the reason she can't pay her grocery bills because we're in a recession? Or is it just because it's just a technical recession?
The Honourable Minister of Veterans Affairs.
Mr. Speaker, I thank my colleague for sharing the story of Shirley and his riding, and I have news for Shirley. There are steps that we are taking to support her. Shirley could be one of the individuals that might benefit from the middle class tax cut, which is helping 22 million Canadians. She might also be somebody who's going to benefit from the expanded criteria and accessibility to the disability tax credit.
Excellent.
She might also be one of the individuals that's benefiting from the reduction of the fuel tax by 10 cents a litre. Yeah. These are all things that can impact seniors, but can impact British Columbians altogether.
Excellent.
The honourable member for Nanaimo Ladysmith.
Under this Liberal Prime Minister, Canada is the only G20 country in any kind of recession. Maria from my community worked her whole life but lost her home because she and her husband couldn't make ends meet. She needs help because CRA made a mistake on her file, but needed to know we could help her before she makes the drive to my office because the cost of fuel is so high that she can't afford to waste a trip. I hear from more and more Marias every week, Mr. Speaker. Will the Prime Minister please tell Maria whether her hardship is because Canada is in a recession, or is it just a technicality he'll continue to ignore?
The Honourable Minister of Veterans Affairs.
Mr. Speaker, I thank my colleague from Vancouver Island for bringing up that there are some headwinds facing our economy right now. And that's why I think it's really important for us to talk about the forestry sector, which I know is really prevalent on Vancouver Island. Yet this week we announced that we are providing an additional $400 million through regional development agencies, and some of that money is going to be coming to British Columbia to support our businesses. We're also investing $130 million in 56 projects to transform the industry.
and more than 50% of that is coming to British Columbia. This is how we're supporting British Columbia.
The honourable member for Elmwood Transcona.
Mr. Speaker, under this Liberal Prime Minister, Canada is the only G20 country to fall into a recession. There has been a lot of media attention on creative definitions to describe the Liberals' track record. One of my friends from out in the field, Mike, asked me to share his story with all of you. He's a hard-working family man who, after working overtime, still didn't even have enough money to make the ends meet. Can the Prime Minister please tell Mike the difference between a recession and a technical recession, because his grocery bill can't tell the difference?
The Honourable Minister for Northern and Arctic Development.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I thank the member opposite for his question, but I ask him, did he vote for the measures that would support this person in his riding?
No. Exactly.
Did he vote to support Red Seal training?
Nope.
Did he vote to support cut taxes at the pump?
No.
Or creating a national school food program? These are the measures that our government is taking to support Canadians and Manitobans in his riding, and he continues to vote against them.
Wow. Member for King Vaughan.
Mr. Speaker, under this Liberal Prime Minister, Canada is the only G20 country to fall into a recession. I spoke with Rosa from Vaughan, a single senior who can't afford a place of her own and rents a room in her 86-year-old cousin's home due to the affordability crisis under this Liberal government. After a lifetime of hard work, Rosa is on the waiting list, but it will be a decade before a unit is available. Will this Liberals explain to Rosa the difference between a recession and a technical recession?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
I'll tell you what we won't do, Mr. Speaker, for seniors. We won't propose as our central seniors policy cutting pensions like the Leader of the Opposition has fought for 20 plus years. Talk about housing, it's a very legitimate issue to talk about. We need more housing. That's why this government is seized exactly with that objective, working with provincial and municipal governments towards that end. Mr. Speaker, if we look at the headwinds facing the Canadian economy, the trade war that has been put upon us, of course there are challenges. The hardships created will absolutely be there for Canadians day in and day out. They can propose ideas that will not work and not be serious. We are the serious government. We're going to stand there for Canadians.
The Honourable Member for St. John, St. Croix.
Mr. Speaker, under this Liberal Prime Minister, Canada is the only G20 nation in recession. Every country faces tariffs and rising energy prices, but these Liberals keep making the same mistakes. Their deficit spending and net zero regulations kill jobs and make everything more expensive. For Carol in my riding, it means she can no longer afford to drive to and from work each day. For Jackie, it means working full-time as a senior citizen. I want the Prime Minister to tell Jackie and Carol, are they struggling every day because Canada is in a recession, or because it's just a technical recession and no big deal?
The Honourable Secretary of State for Financial Institutions.
Mr. Speaker, I thank that member, my neighbour. I'm St. John Kennebecasis. He's St. John, St. Croix. A lot of respect his way. In fact, Mr. Speaker, recently I was in Grand Manan in his riding and announced millions of dollars for small craft harbors in his riding. I'm sure he's supportive of that, but Mr. Speaker, on this side, we're serious about building a strong economy for all Canadians. At home, we're cutting taxes. Abroad, we're signing trade deals worth billions, thousands of jobs. We're serious about the economy. They continue with the rhetoric. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable Member for Newtecumseh, Gwillimbury.
Under this Liberal Prime Minister, Canada is the only G20 country to fall into recession. This so-called financial wizard created a K-shaped economy where the wealthy, the bankers, the bondholders climb higher while working Canadians fall further behind. The Liberals can say, what recession? Because they aren't impacted by skyrocketing unemployment, grocery bills, and mortgages. Why is this Prime Minister telling Canadians they're just technically unemployed, technically hungry, or technically homeless?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Jobs and Families.
Mr. Speaker, I hopefully have good news for the constituents of that member's riding. Tomorrow, Mr. Speaker, over 27,000 members of that member's constituency are going to receive the groceries and essentials benefit. Wow. That is tax-free. That is automatic. That is $530 in the pockets of a family with 2 children, or $267 for someone who's single. That is real help to make life more affordable for Canadians in that member's own riding.
The honourable member for Newtecumseh-Gwillimbury.
Mr. Speaker, the cost of living is so high, living is being put on hold. This is the real Liberal recession, where people can't afford to enjoy life, make memories, or chase dreams. They're just spending their whole time just barely getting by. That's the consequences of 11 years of Liberals and their failed economic policy. Instead of telling people who are struggling, everything's fine, will the Prime Minister stand up and admit his real Liberal recession is hurting Canadians?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Mr. Speaker, let's think about the consequences of Conservative policy on those very Canadians that member is talking about. Those would be families without childcare. They would be families without dental care. They would be families without a national school food program. They would be families that wouldn't benefit from a cut to middle-class taxes. Mr. Speaker, these are the policies that our government is putting forward because we're actually on the side of Canadians.
The honourable member for Chatham-Kent, Leamington.
Under this Liberal Prime Minister, Canada is the only G20 country to fall into a recession. While Canadians can delay buying a home or a car, which also hurts our economy, they cannot stop buying food. Families are stretching every dollar at the grocery store, restaurant demand is weakening, and our agri-food sectors are facing exploding input costs. Experts warn that Canada's food economy cannot outrun a shrinking national economy. Why are the Liberals content to watch Canada's competitiveness and productivity erode? Is this a technical recession or technically a failure of policy?
The honourable minister. Okay. We're going to wait a second. The honourable minister of Agriculture and Agri-Food.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And, I have the utmost respect for my honourable colleague. We talk to each other quite often about processing in his area, mostly in around Leamington, Mr. Speaker. And I can tell you there's going to be vast investments in Leamington. He knows that. There's the Ideal Can, which is moving to Leamington, one of the only canning companies in the country using aluminum and steel from Canada. And we're going to continue to invest in the processing sector and in agriculture, Mr. Speaker. There's all kinds of companies talking about Massily, North America's $85 million new food packaging processor. AgriPure plans to invest nearly $1 billion in plants in Eastern Canada. We're going to continue to invest in Ontario.
The honourable member for Chatham-Kent, Leamington.
Mr. Speaker, our missing middle in processing has been missing. Finally, we're seeing some action, but Canada's productivity crisis did not start this year. Weak investment did not start this year. Declining competitiveness did not start this year. These are the consequences of a decade of bad Liberal policy choices. As Sylvain Charlebois recently stated, the greatest threat to Canada's food economy isn't the recession. It's the illusion that someone else is responsible for economic decline. Does the Liberal Prime Minister plan to reverse these declines or just have a new definition of a recession?
The Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank the honourable member for the question. It gives me the opportunity to talk a little bit about foreign direct investment. And again, these executives are confident in Canada. Imperial Oil investing $700 million in Strathcona, Kraft Heinz investing $250 million in Montreal, Bayer's investing $45 million in canola research in Winnipeg. Fornera, an ice cream giant, is expanding Canadian operation. Mars Canada is investing $180 million across Ontario. Coca-Cola is investing $141 million into Brampton facility. Mr. Speaker, they have confidence in this country and our workers. Why don't they?
The honourable member for Dorval-Lachine-LaSalle.
Monsieur le Président.
Mr. Speaker, the Conservatives love to talk down the Canadian economy, industry, and workers. They completely ignore the historic challenges we face and the concrete results of our plan. Instead of these slogans and this doomsday rhetoric, could the Minister of Finance set the record straight on the state of the Canadian economy? Please. Thank you. The Honourable Minister of Finance. Mr. Speaker, it's refreshing to hear this type of question, a good question. It's good for Canadians to hear. I want to thank my colleague for this extraordinary work. Just like my colleague from Trois-Rivières said, the people listening to us now know that we're making generational investments to support the Canadian economy in infrastructure, housing, productivity, innovation, defense. But, Mr. Speaker, tomorrow is June 5th. 12 million Canadians will receive the Canadian Groceries and Essentials benefit. We will always be here for Quebecers. We will always be here for Canadians. We will defend our industry. We will defend the entire country.
Bradford, Brant South, Six Nations.
Canadians are sick and tired of watching violent criminals get chance after chance while victims pay the price. A non-citizen committed multiple violent crimes in 2019. 7 years later, he's still in Canada. He carried out 2 gunpoint robberies and pistol-whipped another victim. Yet somehow, these Liberals keep protecting him from deportation. We Conservatives fought to end sentencing discounts for serious criminals. They voted against it. Why is avoiding deportation more important than protecting criminals from violent?
Good question.
From violent
Honourable Minister of Justice.
Mr. Speaker, it's difficult to take seriously charges of not taking crime seriously with harms falling to victims from a member who just a few hours ago was opposing efforts to speed up the adoption of the Protecting Victims Act. Mr. Speaker, we have launched one of the most ambitious agendas when it comes to criminal law reform, when it comes to bail reform, when it comes to strengthening sentencing, when it comes to protecting victims and combating hate. With respect to the issue that he has mentioned, he knows that there is no rule that requires sentences to be adjusted for immigration status. We support the decisions of the Supreme Court of Canada and trust the judiciary to implement the law with fit sentences independent of politics.
The Honourable Member for Brantford, Brant South, Six Nations.
Canadians continue to watch violent offenders get lighter sentences, avoid deportation, and stay in this country year after year. In Kitchener, a non-citizen strangled his wife in front of their child. He was found guilty. The victim and her child are now living in a shelter. He remains in Canada. Under these Liberals, violent offenders get sentencing discounts, delayed deportation, and endless second, third, fourth chances. Victims get nothing but excuses. When will these Liberals stop bending over backwards to help violent criminals, avoid deportation, and start standing up for victims for a change?
Good question. Another good question.
The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, it's clear with respect to the individual circumstances that he's referring to that all members of Parliament must condemn heinous and violent crimes, particularly when it comes to repeat offenders. Now, we have to ask ourselves, what do we want to do about that? On this side of the House, we want to move forward with the most ambitious set of reforms when it comes to the criminal law in this country that Canada has seen in generations. That includes more serious conditions on bail. That includes stiffer sentences for violent repeat offenders and those tied to organized crime. And that includes allowing the courts to make a decision about a fit sentences. When someone commits a serious and violent crime, they should face serious penalties, including deportation.
The Honourable Member for Hamilton East, Stony Creek.
2 of the 5 men accused of murdering a teenager in a terrifying Stony Creek shooting linked to the GTA tow truck wars are refugee claimants. A source from the CBSA told the Toronto Sun that although they want to remove these individuals from Canada, they keep facing countless roadblocks. That minister doesn't do anything to make sure that government departments will deport non-citizens that commit serious crimes like murder. The residents of Stony Creek and all Canadians want to know and demand to know why.
Parliamentary Secretary.
Time and again throughout this parliamentary session, Mr. Speaker, the Conservatives have stood in the way of genuine, real, and historic criminal justice reform. They will continue to do so, I suppose, but they should listen to their constituents who want to see real reform. They should review the comments of police chiefs across the country who have spoken in favor of exactly what the government is doing on these issues. With respect to the issue of non-residents or non-citizens, he knows very well, or should. In 2013, the Supreme Court of Canada made clear that courts and justices in particular can take note of the immigration status of an individual, but that does not impact upon sentencing.
The honourable member for Victoria.
Mr. Speaker, across British Columbia, workers and communities know how important the forestry sector is to our economy. As Canada's forest ministers met this week in Langford on southern Vancouver Island,
The member has a question, and he deserves to be listened to. Is it over, your question? Okay, the honourable member can start from the top.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, across British Columbia, workers and communities know how important the forestry sector is to our economy. As Canada's forest ministers met this week in Langford on beautiful Vancouver Island to discuss the future of forestry, workers face unjustified U.S. softwood lumber tariffs and conditions that will require us to make our forestry sector more competitive. Can the Minister of Industry update this House on how our government is working with provinces and territories to strengthen the sector and support forestry workers from coast to coast to coast?
The Honourable Minister of Industry.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would like to thank my colleague from Victoria for his important question and for his important work. Indeed, lots is happening in the forestry sector that is completely victim of the illegal and unjustifiable tariffs from the American administration, and that is why the Minister of Natural Resources and I have been working on a plan to really support the sector. While the Minister of Natural Resources is with his counterparts from the provinces and territories in BC, we're also working on liquidity support, more than $1 billion for the forestry sector. Excellent. We will be there for the workers in the sector.
The honourable member for Thornhill.
Earlier today, the Liberals actually compared the salaries and offices and the economy class flights of the Leader of the Opposition to the Prime Minister's $835 on orange juice on one trip, or the $3,800 he spent on chocolate mousse on a flight. That's on top of the $250 million he spends on his personal office. That's 30 times more than the Leader of the Opposition. Mr. Speaker, while families are forced to tighten their belts because he's the only leader in the G20 that plunged us into the recession, shouldn't he tighten his own?
The Honourable Government House Leader.
Mr. Speaker, we now have the answer to the question, what will get the Conservatives to change their script after 38 of the same questions, but dare touch dear leader who squatted at Stornoway for an entire summer while Canadian taxpayers shelled out $2 million to get his sorry you-know-what back into the House of Commons. I can't answer for all of this stuff from the Leader of the Opposition. Maybe they can.
I don't know what. No, I don't. The honourable member for Vancouver Kingsway.
This government's AI strategy is leaving Canadians dangerously exposed. While this technology can produce benefits, it urgently needs effective regulation and strong guardrails. We know AI is driving mass surveillance, facilitating fraud, and threatening jobs. It uses huge amounts of water and energy, and children are being targeted. These are real threats, yet the Liberals sprinted through a shallow consultation and are mouthing the lines of tech billionaires. Why is this government rushing a reckless AI strategy without ensuring real protections for Canadians?
The Honourable Secretary of State for Sport.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. AI for All is this government's plan to make AI work for all Canadians. It's about what AI can do in Canadians' lives to better healthcare, stronger businesses, safer communities, and better public services. Our strategy has three foundations, Mr. Speaker. Trust, so that privacy, children, and democracy are protected. Second, opportunity, so that every Canadian can use, build with, and benefit AI. And third, sovereign control, so Canada makes its own choices on AI. This is a plan for Canadian AI leadership, Mr. Speaker, and we are taking care of Canadians.
Member for Saanich Gulf Islands.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I wonder how the slogan AI for all lands in Tumbler Ridge.
Honourable member, we're going to pause for a moment and have the honourable member start over.
Lives could have been saved if we had better protection. I'm wondering, Mr. Speaker, that despite the benefits of AI, why does this strategy land with more promotion than protection? Will the Prime Minister and when will this government consider the advice of Pope Leo XIV's advice? AI needs to be disarmed.
Well, Secretary of State for Sport.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I want to emphasize that trust is at the core of every aspect of our AI strategy. This government is taking a multi-pronged approach. Bill C-16 combats those sexualized deepfakes that are concerning so many Canadians as they should. Bill C-25 protects our democratic institutions, and our strategy commits to bringing forward legislation on safe social media and updating consumer privacy law to protect Canadians' data. We're launching a Canada Trusted AI certification program, and Mr. Speaker, we're protecting Canadians as our first priority in this strategy. Thank you very much.
The honourable member for Saanich Gulf Islands.
Mr. Speaker, I've been informed by colleagues near that I started to put my question forward when I heard my riding address, and I stood up and began to address the question without having the microphone on, and therefore I know the Honourable Parliamentary Secretary has answered, but may I repeat the first part of my question?
Hear, hear. The honourable member may repeat the first part of her question.
Thank you. The first part of my question, Mr. Speaker, was this. I wonder how the slogan, artificial intelligence for all, lands in Tumbler Ridge, where 7 families are now in court seeking redress for the loss of their children who were not adequately protected. When will we see protection?
Here, here. Good question.
The Honourable Secretary of State for Sport.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Our hearts are with the families and loved ones of the victims in Tumbler Ridge. And, Mr. Speaker, we will do absolutely everything that we can, including working with AI companies and advancing on our protective legislation to ensure that these types of tragedies never happen again in Canada. We are advancing this legislation with trust at its core to protect Canadians. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
That brings an end to question period.